Hello, in this lesson we are going to look at another use of blockchain outside of currency. And what we're going to look at is education, and the uses for blockchain are immense. So one of the first things that blockchain could be used for is certificates. So certificates, and this could be used to track grades. So if you use a blockchain based network, imagine a global, this is Earth right here, and this is meant to be the different countries. So as you can see, it's a very accurate representation of Earth. I really should be an artist. That just looks like a dodgy X with a circle in the middle. Okay, so that is Earth. So a global network that holds certificates, or more importantly, tracks grades. So if you were to go from one institute to another, so let's say if you did a degree in one university, and maybe you did it 20 years ago. So assuming blockchain, this education network has been around for decades, and you did a degree 20 years ago, it's tracked, it's on there. It doesn't matter whether you go a year later and somebody wants to see the grades, the certificates, they can see them. They don't need your original copy. If anything, they don't want your physical copy, because the network will have a more accurate representation of what you actually did and actually achieved, even if that institute is no longer around for whatever reason. So that's a very, very powerful thing. Another thing that this could be useful is for refugees. There are refugees around the world, especially from war-torn countries, that are highly educated, but unfortunately they are unable to get hold of their records. So there's no proof to say they are an engineer, that they're a doctor, they're a lawyer, they have these qualifications. But if it's a global network that's decentralized, distributed, that's outside of any one schooling body, it doesn't matter if they're a refugee, it doesn't matter if they want to do something with it 20 years later, a year later, or whether it's within education or somewhere else, or the original institute is no longer around. It's there. They can access it, and anyone can access it. So that is a really, really powerful thing. And all of this could feed into a automatic version of LinkedIn. So anyone that knows of LinkedIn, which I'm sure everyone that's watching the video does, it's like a professional social network where you have sort of like an online CV. You can put your grades, you can put your qualifications, if you have any books that you've written, where you went and what you studied, all of that stuff. Essentially what a CV is, like an online CV. And it helps connect recruiters to people that want to get jobs. It just helps connect people in general in a professional manner. But you have to put your own records in there. So you put your own name, you put your own details, you put what you've achieved, what grade you achieved, and let's just say some people do fabricate their achievements. Whereas if it was an automatic system that automatically retrieved it from a blockchain system, and all you had to do was just prove your identity, maybe using a passport number or a driver's license, or maybe some other blockchain based network, it just automatically retrieves it. And also, as you do new stuff, maybe you get another degree or a diploma, or you work somewhere, it automatically just populates it. That would be awesome. I think that would free up a lot of people, and it would just be very, very accurate. Another cool application is attendance. So if attendance was recorded on a blockchain based network, people outside of that institute could see how punctual an individual is. So imagine if I go to a job interview and maybe all throughout my education I've been punctual, I've been on time, I went to every single lesson, lab, lecture, everything that there ever was, and maybe extracurricular activities as well that were tracked using a blockchain based network. Imagine if that's all tracked. And I go to a job, they just have to pull me up in the network and they see that this person is very punctual. And maybe they have another person that maybe is slightly more qualified than I am, but they see that person is not punctual at all. And they would rather have somebody that is punctual and that clearly will put the work into it, even though they might not be as qualified. So it just essentially provides all of the facilities that we have right now, but just a more accurate, up to date, and almost tamper proof version of ourselves. And linking to this, we can have student records. So if we have achievements outside of grades and certificates, so extracurricular based stuff, if let's say we've been praised or maybe we've been disciplined heavily, that could be tracked as well. Some will argue that this is bad because, again, some argue that this is bad because maybe at school you wasn't very well behaved, which there are students that aren't. Then later on in life, they do change course and they do become productive members of society. So if it's all tracked and recorded, people might be judging people wrongly and essentially categorize them as misfits almost. So that's a counter argument for not just tracking for education in blockchain, just tracking people in general. So if we talk about sort of research now, research based stuff, research, we could see collaboration like the way we've never seen it before. Generally, collaboration occurs within just the same sort of school, same institute. So if I go to a university and I do a PhD, for the most part, I'll probably just be collaborating with other researchers at that university. Maybe a bit of collaboration may occur outside of the university, but for the most part, be within that institute. But imagine if you was on a global network where it truly is about helping and progressing humanity. So it no longer will we be limited to the researchers around us or within the actual university, but we'll have access to researchers all over the world. And this could lead to a more open research system, which is a overall more democratic education system. Another thing that we could link regarding research is exchanging content. So that could come in many forms, whether that's new inventions, new research. So we could exchange that content. It could be exchanging teaching material as well. So instead of just putting it on the internet for everyone to see, it's on a network of educators and only educators can see. So ultimately a global, I won't try and draw another Earth. I'm sure you were very disappointed with the old one. So it is a global network for education, for research, and it also can help track teacher reputation. So you can see how well a teacher does, sort of reputation they have. So when they go to, let's say, another school, there are cases where teachers are fired or they leave and they're not very good teachers for whatever reason. But a lot of that just stays behind them as long as they haven't done anything like really scandalous and it's not in the newspaper or in the media, then they usually are able to get a job somewhere else. especially in the education system. But whereas with global network that tracks teacher reputation, you can see what their teachers like. Because I know, speaking to governors, that this is a major issue that they have, is vetting new teachers. So if there was an automatic system for providing that, they would save a whole heap of time. And also through a global network, we could eliminate individual schools and have a global school. So no longer would we have like institutions like Harvard, Stanford in America, Oxford and Cambridge in the UK, and other institutions around the world. We just have one global network. We might have these individual sort of sections that they might still be called Harvard, Oxford, Cambridge, Stanford, MIT, etc. But it's all part of a global school, and maybe students and teachers can go between the different institutes, and a lot of the admin is just automated, which is a lot of the cost in general. So those are the many applications of education with blockchain. And here's another one that came to mind while I was planning this lesson. It could be used to eliminate student debt. Student debt is a major issue pretty much in a lot of the countries, especially Western countries, for college if you're in America, university if you're in the UK. And what I was thinking was you could use a economic output system, so almost like an EOS. This is just something that I'm making up, but what it could be, instead of having debt that you have to pay, let's say the student debt is $10,000 a year, that covers accommodation, university fees, and anything else, and the degree is 3 years, so that's $30,000 worth of debt. Instead of paying off $30,000 or the equivalent currency, whether that's crypto based or there's some other fiat currency, what it could be, it could track the actual economic output that you have, and once you're hitting above a certain economic output, that extra output is considered more than the average person, and as a result, that is just taken away from your debt. I think that's just a crazy system, because imagine if you have two people, they both graduate with the same degree, same university, very similar people, but one person provides economic output of £50,000, or let's say, let's just keep it to dollars, $50,000. So person A economic output is $50,000 per year, and let's just say it's consistent that is as always $50,000. And person B, maybe it's his best friend, and she has a economic output of $5 million. For now, let's just ignore what they're outputting. Let's just say it's very useful to the economy. In a way, is it fair to say the person who's providing this much economic output, and let's say it is of true intrinsic value, that this person should be paying the debt, because then they provided the output to the economy? Some people may argue this person is worse off, and as a result, financially, and as a result shouldn't have to pay as much. But you could say, well, this person has in a way worked harder or worked better using their skills, obviously excluding any family issues or any other factors like that. If everything else is the same, all else held equal, I think the Latin saying is ceteris paribus, so all else held equal, then this person has clearly already provided more than $30,000 worth of extra economic output. So I think that's a really cool potential system. So eliminating student debt. So this has just been a video on covering another use of blockchain and in the sector of education. I've got other videos in this series covering other uses of blockchain, such as the medical industry and other really important industries around the world. So feel free to check them out. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. And as usual, thank you for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in my next lesson.